The Archimediae Genesis Exposition / Part 1 Update Log 1. So, as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm not going to be posting a chapter today. Instead, I want to focus on the point that I made last video about going over changes I'm planning to the story. In fact, you should also expect more update logs coming up in the future. Anyways, enjoy the video. So for changes, let's start with Mira. Mira is actually my favorite character, but I always felt like something was missing. And last week, I realized it was her backstory. Now, just to clarify, none of these are actual official changes and I haven't applied them yet, but they're very probable. Getting back on track, I wanted to give her a backstory because she needed motive. Obviously, we don't really know how she feels about her mission. The only real thing we get is her sobbing at the murder of the child, and her internal guilt 2 chapters later. But that doesn't really count too much, so I've actually given her some backstory. Here's how it goes. Mira grew up on Europa, an Archimediae-owned territory. By now you've probably figured out that the Archimediae and Protochloriate have some bad blood between them. Her mom stayed at home while her dad served the Archimediae. She had a passion for many things, one of them being chess. I'm planning to add themes of it throughout the story. When she was 6, her dad was actually tortured and executed by the Protochloriate on a mission. Shortly after, her mom committed suicide from grief. Since she was the daughter of an Archimediae spy, she got accepted into the Archimediae spy program. While she doesn't necessarily support what they do, she's only in it for vengeance. Again, all this exposition is only what you should know at this point of the story, and only from the characters' perspectives. There may be other things that they don't know. Alright, let's move on to Caspian. Like Mira, I wanted to celebrate and elaborate on his backstory. But there were some plot holes in the original version of the story and some personality issues that I also wanted to overcome. So let's start with the backstory. Caspian grew up in New Richmond, a relocated Richmond, Virginia after the Great Floods of 2054, which destroyed the old Richmond. However, due to his dad's job, they were forced to move to the cognizant Corp Zone. A Corp Zone is practically an area of land owned by the Protochloriate, but also partially owned by a company. That company gets to govern all the laws of that Corp Zone, and all the citizens living in the Corp Zone must work for that company. However, they do get to stay there for free. Anyways, so Caspian misses the people back in New Richmond, and due to his current home being in a Corp Zone, there's curfew, and he barely gets to talk or meet anyone. Additionally, there's increased Novae searches and harsher repercussions for harboring a Novae. And as such, his parents don't allow him to venture out of the quote-unquote cubicle. However, as shown in the first chapter, he doesn't abide by this and often breaks curfew in the morning. As for the story as it is, I was kind of annoyed with myself for not carrying out the repercussions of the Novae testing and the 3 lives that he killed. I removed the darkness part of the story in which his mind can die if he sees the badge of a PND. It just seemed a bit ridiculous to me. As for the 3 lives, I dropped a bit of exposition for them in a drafted part of the story. It reads as follows. Cue the music. And as they disappear beyond my vision, my eyes well up into tears. Salty, wet tears claw their way through the tip of my eyes, slowly tipping over into tiny comets of water. 3 lives. I still remember their names. Jerry, Jonah, and Jackson. I guess they had a thing for Jays. In a world of hate and distrust, they were full of love and trust. I remember when Miss Jenna used to bake up a tray of her signature brownies and used to deliver them to every newcomer to the cubicles. I remember Jonah, his deep chuckles as he snuck out with me, breaking curfew. It had all been a year and a half, but it felt like forever. Yet at the edge of forever, I see New Richmond. No curfew, none of the severe Novae rules that this corp zone has. Yet dragging back to the corp zone are their faces. The elusive Mr. Jerry, the humorous Jonah, and the generous Miss Jenna. Only a year ago Jonah had passed his SAST and was accepted into a dream job, a quantum physicist. His mom had gotten a raise as a result, and they held this huge party. Despite being low on rations, they made a cake and celebrated the entire night. That was the first time I, and probably any of us, had had cake. It was only yesterday that Jerry had told me that he'd get his first paycheck, having passed his probation period. He'd secretly planned on buying a watch for his dad and getting a VR set for his mom. She'd always longed to see the world, but had never gotten around to it due to the war. No, not the war. Due to us. With the VR set, she'd have the entire world at her fingertips. And then I happened, snuffed out their lives right in their sleep, buried them alive. Their world of happiness cut by the very person they trusted. And there was no one to share my guilt to. No soul, no life could share my burden. Yes, I am the darkness. My mind teeming with it, I cry myself to sleep. Of course, this will have repercussions affecting his decisions later on in the story. Additionally, I'm planning major changes to Chapter 15, in which there's actually quite a bit of dialogue, and he has to argue on the tether jet. I didn't like that particular chapter as it morphed the story from grim dystopian sci-fi to kind of like a comedy or a drama book. And since Caspian literally killed someone a few hours ago, it didn't make sense for him to be openly bickering, where he should actually be reserved and full of guilt. That's about it for the characters, actually. Like I mentioned, they only know what they've been told, and some more stuff may be revealed later on. As for the world building, I'll probably cover that next video. Anyways, enjoy. Thanks for watching.